That's wearing makeup. Okay. We turned on record because we don't like to leave anybody out.
Okay.
But I was saying how your skin is radiating and that
Thanks.
if you're on YouTube, you know what I'm talking about. Hi, honey. Happy New Year.
Hi, Happy New Year.
Happy 2023. I'm
Thank you.
so excited we get to be together.
Me too.
What are we talking about today?
Um, well, I have so many struggles. I don't know how to narrow it down to one.
Why don't you list them all? Let's just start with a dump. I bet you we can find a thread and probably
Okay.
the bottom of a lot of things at once.
Okay. Well, number one, you sent out the on Facebook the little message like, if you want to come on and have coaching, and I was like, sure, I'll do that. And so I
love that about you.
Wow, I didn't think that through very well.
So you're like, oh my God, I totally want coaching. And then I was like, hey, come on the podcast. And now you're here and you're like,
like
I don't know if I want coaching.
No, I want coaching. Yeah,
Oh,
for sure. But now I have to put my thoughts into some sort of order, and that's always
no,
difficult.
you don't.
So, life life is my struggle for sure. Kind of had a rough few years. And so working really hard on myself and doing all the things that I want to do, which is, seeing a therapist and getting healthy and working through bad relationships and having good relationships and all those things that I want to do for myself. And so I feel like my life has kind of gotten itself in really good order. I'm in a really good place, but I'm struggling to get my health in a good place.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I've worked on all the outside, but
It's so funny though. I've been doing this for so many years, like so many years, it frightens me. And I think it happens two ways. I think it happens two ways. Either people get their health together first, and then they get their health together and they're like, okay, now I have to go deal with like all these other things and go to therapy and talk about my trauma, after they've gotten their food stuff together. Like, then they're like, oh dear, right? Like, if you like what I say, if you want to know why you're overeating, stop overeating, right? Or some people go handle all that other stuff. And then they're like, okay, so one thing left.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not here to play favorites, but like sometimes it might make sense that you have a lot of the skills now because all these things are shored up. I mean, what's the narrative in your head that you're saying about the idea that you haven't got the food, weight, health stuff in order? I don't think it's nice. That's my assumption.
Probably not.
I don't think your inner voice is like, go you for fixing so many things.
No, not the nicest. I think that I think about that thing. I think about those things a lot. I'm super nervous, obviously. And I'm like a tool gatherer and a information gatherer and all that stuff. So I have all these wonderful tools that I can use, and then it's the execution. I've studied horsemanship for a really, really, really long time.
Me
And that
too. I was an equestrian for so long.
so excited. That's amazing.
Namaste Pony Club. I was in Pony Club, the whole thing. I think it really made me who I am today in many ways.
Well, yeah, for sure. I know it made me a good mom and a good wife, but
and a good person. We
and a
just
good
say you're a wonderful human. Like, we have to start off that part because you know what? Not being able to get what you want in the relationship with food and weight for as long as most of us have really does something to this concept of self, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think we have to set that aside. It's total crap.
Yeah, for sure.
So execution is challenging.
Execution is challenging.
Can you do me a faves? Can we get down to some brass tacks?
Sure.
I despise talking in generalizations because it doesn't usually bode results. So can we be like super specific as to what we're talking about here?
Sure. Okay. Brief overview of my life. Is that what you want?
I actually want brief overview of what you mean by not executing.
Okay.
I mean, I'd
Um,
love a brief overview of your life, but we only have 45 minutes. I like to make sure we get stuff done, you know?
okay. Like, well, I have your book. I have your course. I'm going through it again. I have all these. I feel like I have all these tools, and I have my. I'm recently married a year ago, and
Oh,
my thank
congratulations.
you.
Love wins. I love
Like
when
divorced a year ago. So my husband currently is amazing, like so supportive and so loving and so amazing, and my job is supportive and amazing, and I have all these things that are right kind of at my fingertips that I could use to help myself, and yet I feel like I don't use them.
Okay.
Like,
I'm obsessed with this.
well,
You know what? People always laugh when I say that, but could you imagine if I looked at you and I was like, well, Leanne, I don't get it either, right? Can you imagine? I was like, well, good luck with it. Right. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to unpack here.
yeah,
Shall we start?
yes, yes.
Can I remind you? Well, I want to remind you, first of all, you are like a magnificent human. It's
Thanks.
really important. And that you want this so, so, so badly, right?
Mhm.
Is that true? And when we say you want this, what are we exactly talking about? The universe is
Uh,
always listening. That's why.
well, of course, everyone wants to be thin, but I think I set that aside a while ago. I just really want to be healthy. Like, there's so many. I
What's
have,
unhealthy right now? Yeah. And by the way,
like,
like releasing
yeah,
weight is there for you. I did this ain't no
yeah,
help at any size.
yeah. I
Yeah.
can't do anything that I want to do
Mm.
because of my size,
Oh, tell me
which
more.
sucks.
Tell me more. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I haven't ridden in like 2 years,
Mm.
3 years.
Yeah. Well, okay. So that's a big why. You want to get back with the ponies.
Backpacking and
Okay.
stuff. I
Okay.
want to jump out of the airplane.
So it's a big desire you have.
Yeah,
That's so exciting. Okay. So this is a big desire to get back into a different and healthier space because you're really missing out on the things you truly love in life.
absolutely.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Ask you a few more questions.
sure.
Okay.
Mind if I cry?
Oh God, like crying is my love language.
Oh my God.
Emotional release is like just the quickest way to my heart. Um, the relationship with food right now, what does it look like? Can you just be as honest as you can possibly find?
Sure. Um, it's days of, I don't want to say being good. It's
Yeah,
days of
thank you.
it's days of staying where I want to stay. It's eating what I want to eat. And then
It's like in
it's,
your best interest, you mean?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's binging
Mm-hmm.
whenever I can. Um, but the days when I'm staying where I want to be, it's obsessive thoughts
Mm.
of food.
So it's sort of hanging on for dear life. And in a general way, what is like the ratio of days you're binging versus days you're like, for lack of a better word, compliant?
Compliant. Probably right now through the holidays, it's probably been 5 to 7 compliant.
And too off. And when you're doing the off,
And
it's
only like one, maybe like an hour.
quick. And going, when you're binging, it's in sugar and flour, right?
Yeah, yeah, it's super planned. Like, I have to plan it because I have to be sneaky, right?
Well, not really. What would it be like if you weren't sneaky? What do you think would happen?
I don't know.
I actually
I,
wonder, right? Like, what if you just did it right in front of your husband? Like, then what would happen?
I don't know. I don't know. I
What do you think?
wouldn't. I wouldn't
Smart
do
lady.
that.
What do you think would happen if you just ate the cupcake in front of him?
I feel like he'd probably be disappointed.
So what?
I don't want to disappoint him.
But okay. do you think you are disappointing him by being dishonest about it?
Hmm. For sure.
Tricky spot, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just think there's something too, in general, not that I invented this concept by any means, but there is something about secrets keeping us so sick. And the
Yeah.
thing about the double life of
Hmm.
you like wanting his, being so on quote unquote honest with him about your
Hmm.
struggles, and then the secrecy of hour-long binging once a week. It's like, why just be all in with like honesty with him if he's that
Hmm.
supportive?
Yeah. Um, I don't know. Scared.
It's a
My
We'll put a pin in that to think about. I want to put that in somewhere in your mind to be like, there's that movie, uh My Best Friend's Wedding, and at the end of
Yeah.
that, there's a great scene that talks about this, in my opinion, which is like, you know, can't Julia Roberts is kissing Dermot Mulroney, and Cameron Diaz sees that, and then Cameron Diaz starts running, and Dermot Mulroney starts running after Cameron Diaz, and Julia Roberts starts running after Dermot Mulroney, and she's on the phone with her best friend, and he says, he's chasing her, you're chasing him. Who's chasing
Chin.
you?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think when we're doing all this binging in secret,
Hmm.
I want to wake us up a little bit in the self-determination, which is the only way that any change happens, which is like, who's chasing you?
Hmm.
Right? Like, clearly there's something going on with you.
Yeah.
If you're in this great relationship, which is so unusual on the show, it's
I
very unusual. People are like, well, my husband's like so supportive. I'm like, well, okay, let's take that out. There's something to think about. Something we're going to think about today. Something, I'll put a little pin in that for you. But I mean, who cares? Overeat in public, who cares? It's double shaming. That's why. One
yeah.
shame is enough. We don't need all this double shaming.
Yeah. Absolutely. Hmm, that's interesting.
Yeah, something to think about. But I want to think about one more thing while we're up, which is,
Mhm.
did you read the book yet?
Yeah.
So
Like
did you take the
three
quiz in the, oh, thank you. Did you take the quiz in chapter 4?
uh-huh.
How did you score?
Like
Oh, for the
3,000.
listener, chapter 4 is the quiz where you figure out how your relationship with sugar is. It's 12
Like
questions.
12 times 10,000.
Well, it's 12 out of 12. I'm 12 out of 12 also. So
Oh
can we
yeah.
talk science for a minute?
Sure.
Because what you're doing is actually really making things complicated. I'm going to explain to you why this is like all biochemistry. It's actually completely biochemistry, what I'm going to tell you. So the real, like, so you're creating, because you're going back into the sugar and the flour for an hour a week. And then the reason it's feeling so terrible is that you're detoxing.
Hmm.
And like the quickest way to miss cupcakes is to eat cupcakes.
Yeah.
So
That
it's
makes
really
yeah.
hard to enjoy this like abundant, delicious food. Like it's really, and by the way, from a taste bud perspective, it's actually super hard to enjoy an apple
Hmm.
when you remember what a cupcake tastes like.
Hmm.
And that's a really big thing. Nikki Glantz, who wrote the meal plan in Breaking Up with Sugar, like she always talks about like, even for some people, like the amount of hidden sugar in their food sometimes makes them not enjoy their food or crave or whatever. And so to me, I mean, even just from what you're saying from the get-go, which I think I have other questions, but there's just some like sort of underhand pitches I want to hit quickly,
Hmm.
just like secret eating and biochemistry, and then I'm going to get to something a little deeper. But the reason it's so hard for you, it's weird. Like the reason it's so hard for you to enjoy being sugar free is that 1 hour, and it does seem innocuous. I get it. You're like, oh, you see how I could binge? Like I get it. I'm a big gnarly binge eater of my soul, but
Yeah.
you'd almost be better off I wish you were spending more time binging, because biochemically it's hard to come back from and enjoy the food. So it really makes sense to me that it feels
Mhm.
like you're holding on for dear life in those 6 days. I think also the brain chemistry of binging and restricting, and I would be curious about how much you're eating when you say you're compliant. We can talk about that
Mm-hmm.
in a second. But the
Mm-hmm.
brain chemistry of binging and restricting is that
Mm-hmm.
when we're restricting, it's actually just setting our brain up for a binge.
Okay. That makes sense.
So my other thought would be that you're not eating enough food. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah, that we might need to bulk up the food for a minute.
Okay. I could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that if you're gonna binge,
Mm-hmm.
that you err quantitatively, not qualitatively. So you make so that you binge in quantity, not in quality. Meaning you binge in a lot of popcorn instead of in cupcakes, because the cupcakes make it confusing for you, makes it chemical. It makes a binge
Mm-hmm.
chemical.
Sure. I really love cupcakes.
I mean, who doesn't? I haven't had one for 13 years, and yet I'm sort of like, I like the bottom of cupcakes, I have to say. I'm a real like scone girl. I'm not really like a huge sugar. The flour part for me has been the way I can delude myself about flour so easily, still to this day.
Okay,
I'm like,
cool.
you really think that fried calamari has flour? They're like, yes, it's battered in flour. I'm like, oh, I guess that's why I'm triggered. That's so fascinating.
Yeah. 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 I planned to binge out for like 2 weeks because I knew my husband was going away. Like
Yeah, I
I
think
knew
this is a big thing you want
this.
to bring to your therapist.
Yeah.
Because it's like you're trying to be perfect in front of him. And I just wonder what that means. If you had never shared the struggle with him, like I
Mm-hmm.
could understand this, but it's like he knows you're struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And then you're planning these binges when he's not. It's like, what's the motive? Like, what's happening for you?
I I have such I don't know. That's a good question. I was raised in a really kind of strict environment, and you had to put on a persona of perfection, or you know
Yeah, I do.
things wouldn't go well.
So yeah, so it's like primary emotion fear, it sounds like you're scared to show him all of it, but
Oh,
some of it well orchestrated and well presented feels okay to you.
absolutely. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
of course the 6-year-old in you believes that. Does
Mhm.
the adult in you believe that he would reject you? If I mean, it's a shame response, right? Shame prevents us from rejection, and that's effectively what you're doing by these secret binges.
No, he wouldn't. Not at all. He's super.
Okay,
Yeah.
what a winner.
I did win. I did win the lottery with him for
Well, can I
sure.
tell you one more thing though?
Yeah.
You deserve even more.
Thank you.
There's an abundant amount. Like, so it doesn't mean that you met this great guy and you don't deserve to release this weight and get in a healthy relationship with food. Because that's the other thing I'm sort of suspecting here,
Hmm.
is that it can't get better, which is why I want to go to my next point.
Okay.
Wouldn't it be terrible if I was just had no ideas? Which is why I want to go to my next point, which is maybe the post-it you want to put on your computer, which is your brain wants you safe, not happy.
Oh.
She bring For those of you listening, not on YouTube, she takes out the post-it. Yeah, I mean, listen, being happy is real scary.
It is.
It's real unsafe.
Yeah.
When you've been in an eating disorder a long time, it's super familiar. We all know how to feel terrible at ourselves. We all know how to feel fat, even though fat isn't a feeling. We all know how to feel demoralized after a binge. But wow, to meet the man of your dreams and that, right?
Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
know what the primary function of sabotage, what the primary feeling of sabotage is?
Are you gonna say happiness?
No, what do you think? What do you think is really, what feeling do you think is really underneath sabotage?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, not ew. What is the ew about? What does that mean? Can you unpack that for me?
Um, I don't like I don't like feeling out of control. I don't like I don't like that fear.
What makes what feels out of control?
I don't I It's hard to explain. Like it's really hard to explain.
Try.
It's funny because if I'm if I'm gonna plan a binge, just like talking about that, then it feels like I'm in control. And yet when I'm doing it, I know I'm not.
Yeah, but how long have you been binging for? Right. That's, you have to give some credit to a well-worn snow groove. And it sounds like in your life, the binges have been the place in which you can like feel in control, or and in binging, feeling in control means even that terrible that feeling of relief, and then the terrible, it's maybe it's not in control, but maybe it's reliable is another really good way.
Yeah,
Like a binge is super reliable, right?
absolutely.
I know how
Absolutely.
it feels. Yeah, I know how it feels to plan it. I know how it feels to execute it. And I know how it feels afterward. And then I'm in that cycle of I'm never going to get it. See, I'm trying so hard. I have all the books. Right? Like that's the oldest song in the whole playlist, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely. Hmm.
So you know what the beauty of all of this is, right? We're taking all of the subconscious stuff and we're bringing it up into the conscious.
This
Your binges are so ruined. I'm like so sorry. Also not.
I hope so.
But it's familiar, right? Like the brain wants you safe. It doesn't want you happy. Happy is very scary for the brain.
Why?
Oh my gosh, because it's such an antiquated part of our being. The scariest thing for the mind is a sneak attack. And when we're happy, we aren't focused on, well, what's going to go wrong? Like, is
Mhm.
that lion going to come attack me? We're happy. And so staying small is really the safest way, and staying in a loop. I mean, if you're saying I've been binging my whole life, don't
Pretty much.
discredit how that thing has served you. I understand like the negative repercussions of it in this moment. It is absolutely stealing joy from your life. That's the
Mhm.
obvious, right? The
Mhm.
underneath, less obvious is that's also my best friend. That is the place where I know exactly how to feel and I'm living this brand new life. I mean, happiness is very scary to the mind, where I can lose everything.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I tell my husband that sometimes, like, well, I'm almost 50, so I'm starting menopause, which is super fun. So
Great
I
podcast about that. Menopause boot camp.
I
Great.
watched it and then I got the book.
Yeah,
I
she's
was like,
awesome.
yeah. I was like, oh, I better figure out menopause. It's happening. I can't not ignore it anymore. So
Absolutely true.
um and so we have some pretty good talks, but I keep telling him, like, I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop and you just
Well,
walk.
maybe you want to try on some of these ideas. Like,
Yeah.
if the other shoe dropped, I think you'd be okay.
Yeah, probably.
Sounds like you know how to be single.
Yeah.
It's
Well, it was, yeah, kind of.
like you know how to be without him. I mean, it's not
Well, yeah, I was
impossible.
married for 27 years before I got married to him. So
Right. So it
nope.
sounds like you know how
It's
to
a
be happy.
baby.
You know how to do all of this, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
it would not be great. It wouldn't be like the best thing that ever happened to you, but like you'd be okay, right?
Yeah.
But here's
Yeah.
my experience of the other shoe dropping. I think this is the most like unobserved idea that we let go, that we let like through our mind. Like I'm so scared of the other shoe dropping. Like here's my the truth. I think the other shoe doesn't just drop. It really does take like a lot of effort for another shoe to drop, right?
Hmm.
It takes us getting a ladder, climbing a ladder. taking a shoe and dropping a shoe. Like you would notice if you did get a ladder or if you decide, I mean, I think it's a really unobserved idea that we let control us in a very significant way. I mean, it is okay to think it's very scary for me to feel this happy. That's really normal.
Mhm.
Can we change that languaging now?
Yeah.
Like this minute, I want you to start, if you're feeling that, I want you to say that instead. That's what's true. Shoes don't drop, but
Okay.
being in a healthy relationship is brand new to you, and that would make sense that that's really scary.
It is.
I know, of course it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's very vulnerable, and it is scary because your brain is like, don't do this. We could lose this. Anyway,
Yeah.
the scariest thing for the mind is a sneak attack,
Wow.
right? And that's the other shoe dropping. I mean, that's literally the scariest thing for the mind is an unexpected attack.
My brain is exploding.
Well, it's being recorded, so you can listen to this a lot of times.
I know.
Yeah. And so here's the thing though, like, I think for you,
Mhm.
you know, if I just got to prescribe, like, we need a different level of consciousness around what you're choosing to believe.
Mhm.
I think a lot of thoughts go in your mind and then you
Mhm.
just like let them live there.
Mhm.
Like, oh, I just have all these, like, oh, I just, I need this binge, or I need to secretly, or I just won't be able to do this. Like,
Mhm.
I think there has to be and again, like anybody who's telling me, anybody whose answer to how long have you binged for, who says forever, has like a very, and is almost 50. And I'm with you. Same, namaste. But it's a very well-worn snow groove. And what I experience and like the many people that I've coached in this is like so many toxic thoughts go unchallenged
Mhm.
that are just like not true.
Right.
And something about the binging forever has made us really be like victims to the binging and forget that we have choices.
Mhm.
Tell me how that resonates with you. What do you think of that?
Absolutely. I'm so like it makes me sick to my stomach to think of myself as a victim. And yet when I open my mouth, I feel like I'm portraying myself as a victim.
Well, you're not a victim. You
The time.
like victims just listen, like the whole point of the victim stance is that it brings us to a place where we forget that we have choices. It's a very addictive space. It's like,
Yeah.
no need to beat yourself up about it. It's a very, I mean, if your brain wants you happy, not safe, it's a very safe place being in a victim space.
Yes.
It's all happening to you. You never need to make a change, and then you never need to feel threatened. So
Mhm.
I'm not available to watch you beat yourself up.
Thanks.
Sorry, not sorry. But so I just understand the function of victimhood, which is it's so
Mhm.
these like what I want you to see is this. You have a highly skilled security system that you now have a choice to dismantle.
How?
How do you eat a rhinoceros, Leanne?
One bite at a time.
And very mindfully. I mean, I think the first piece is understanding what we're talking about. And it is
Mhm.
really about being more thoughtful about what you're choosing to believe.
Okay.
What are some of the beliefs that, when I say that, what are some of the beliefs that you're like, oh, yeah, she's right?
That I believe about myself that I
Yeah,
should change.
and about your capacity to heal your relationship with food.
Um, Sometimes I feel like I've had such a strange life that I'm don't like I don't really belong anywhere. And so I don't it's I feel like I'm super average. Like I'm your average middle-aged soccer mom with an eating disorder. But at the same time, I'm also like, I don't fit in anywhere. It's
Yeah.
really strange. And so,
I don't know if it's strange. I mean, Brene Brown literally wrote a whole book on that. There's like a whole Maya Angelou quote that I'm not remembering right now, but it's actually, I think most people feel that way. They just don't know that they feel that way.
really?
Oh yeah. Hang out in some 12-step rooms. That's like the root feeling of addiction. It's like this emptiness. Yeah, I feel that way every day of my life.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really listen much to it, but yeah. That's like my core belief from childhood. Sure.
Okay.
I just nurture her. I'm just like, okay, let's go make friends then. Let's go call someone that knows us and can see. That's why power circles, I think, are so important.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's a residual from childhood trauma, probably.
Yeah.
Belong and this and this. And like probably some of it's true. It's just that we're almost 50 now. So we want to maybe get a new government in there.
Yeah.
New government, I mean, a belief is a repeated thought. So we just might want to start repeating some new thoughts or challenging this idea of, I mean, who belongs? What does that even mean?
Yeah.
In a way, I think belonging is a choice. It's just really scary to belong, honey, because then we can get rejected.
Yes. That is, yes, that's very true.
See the theme we're getting to here?
Yes. I was,
But
I was
who's doing the most rejecting of herself right now?
me.
Yay! So what if the first thing we do is get you on your own team?
Yes. That would be good.
How do we do that?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do. Come on now. If you've read all the books, you sure do.
Okay.
What would be one or two things that you could commit to that would be about you getting your own on your own team as it pertains to your relationship with food, which is the only thing you're left struggling with right now?
I guess being more honest with myself.
What does that look like?
Um, I think that I'm probably just like everybody else, very good at rationalizing the
Yeah,
things I
totally. Yeah, that makes sense.
do.
How would you go about it? Like, would you start writing down your food? Would you get into a power circle? Would you start sharing? Like, what would that, like, how would that actually be?
Um, I spent a lot of time thinking about that lately, actually. It's funny. Because I was like, well, I'm gonna post every day
Mm-mm.
in the
That's
Facebook.
still anonymous. That's not connected. That's still anonymous. I think you need
Well,
like,
and then I'm like, well, I don't want to do that every day because I don't have a lot to say. The power circle. Yeah, I that would be great too. But like there's times when I just want to be quiet with
well,
myself. I
who's
don't want
saying
to
that I don't think you need to be talking to people 24/7.
and I don't I and then I'm like, well, I should write down all my food. Then I just don't.
Okay, that's no. Don't throw away your power like that. Look at me. So all of this is fear, right? When we are willful, and these are all willful things, right?
Yeah.
You are my favorite hole puncher because you're like, nothing works for me. That's willful.
Yeah.
Everything works.
Yeah.
Not true. Diets don't work. When we are feeling willful, which is what you're being right now,
Yeah.
we have to ask ourselves, what's the threat? So what are you feeling threatened by committing to any of these? What feels threatening about making a commitment
I
to
am
yourself?
willful.
What does?
Super willful. That's
Yeah.
a way to put that's a really good word.
Well, I mean, you did come on the podcast to get coached.
I did, Kim. I did.
So
I
thank God I have something to say. So the question is, when we're feeling willful, we need to ask ourselves, what's the threat? What am I feeling threatened by?
I don't want to be
Yes.
controlled.
You don't want to be.
No, I don't.
But who's controlling you? Again, back to Julia Roberts. Who's chasing you? How are you being controlled?
I think if you I was born and raised in a fundamental religious cult
Mhm.
that I left 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Mhm.
And ever since then I'm just paranoid that I'm gonna be controlled.
Right.
I was scared to read your book for a while.
Totally. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
We know rationally, I think we have to shut off your emotion mind for a minute because we know rationally, like, you could break up with this guy right now if you felt he was controlling you. Like you could, you could start writing down your food and feel too controlled by it and say, you know what, this doesn't work. You could join a power circle and find out they're a bunch of bunkers ladies and be like, I'm out of here, right? Like that's the victim space. That's what I want to show you is that you're not even going in as a scientist. You're rejecting the idea completely. Like, yeah, like I don't know if any of these are going to work, but we got to try. We got to throw some wheat-free spaghetti against the right. Your shame, your protective mechanism is just too good.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh no, 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 nope, that's too controlling. I mean, that's what some people say to me. They're like, well, isn't that kind of like a diet? I'm like, well, everyone needs some guardrails and some guidelines. Like, like there needs to be something that changes, but you don't need to, you just need to try it out. You just need to be a little bit in.
Yes. How did how,
You can break up with it at any time.
okay.
No, that wasn't a real okay. What else is under there? You
Well,
said,
I'm just
how could I?
like,
Yeah.
obviously I'm willing to try anything because I'm
Oh,
with
that's
this.
not true. That's not true. You're scared to try anything. So I think you need to tell yourself the truth.
Yeah,
You are
well,
not willing to
how
try anything. I am
like
scared. So but that's the first space. That's not accurate.
mhm.
We just said three things. You're like, well, I don't know about this. And I don't know about like, say what's true, because then we can heal what's true. Otherwise, you're untreatable. And then so you're scared to try new things.
I think I'm scared to commit to new things.
Okay, cool. So what are we using as a definition of commit? Me too.
Yeah, because I always feel like, oh, I'm gonna try that. And then like it
What
gets
are you
hard.
doing it for?
I think it's for myself.
Well, then it's probably not if you have to think too hard about it.
I I don't know who else it would be for.
Maybe your husband.
Maybe.
What if we just did it for you right now?
Maybe I don't even actually know what that means.
Hmm. Well, I think what I'm hearing is that it sounds like you're really concerned with what other people are going to think if it doesn't work for you.
Mhm.
When the only person you have to answer to is your wisdom, is your own, is the God inside of you, right? Like that's all that matters.
Yeah. I worry that I'm like, oh, this didn't work for 2 minutes, so I'm gonna go
No,
over
no, no,
here.
I mean, thank you for doing my work for me. Yeah. Like, because you have to like let the fear burn off a little bit. Like it's called an extinction burst. Like you're going to make sure it doesn't work. That's just the nature of extinction burst
Yeah,
and fear.
yeah.
So we have to put like 3 weeks on it or something.
Okay.
Could we try that?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's just try like one thing.
Okay.
What's it going to be?
Uh 66-day challenge. I'm just trying to think. 66-day
I don't
challenge.
want you to try anything for 66.
Let's pull something out of my head. Um
Well, could you
mm,
try like no sugar, no flour just for 3 weeks?
yes.
Not volume, just no sugar, no flour. Because I actually think that's going to make a tremendous difference if you take that one day. And I'm not saying no binging by any means.
What do you mean no binging?
Well, because you're doing no sugar, no flour 6 out of 7 days and one day of sugar and flour. I think that's
Mhm.
really confusing your mind and your nervous system.
Right.
And so I actually think I mean, I think that's the smartest place to start.
Is
And I
yeah.
And then, atomic habits, then you can just put a little something on top of that after 21 days. Maybe it would be finding an accountability partner, or maybe it would be, I'd be really mindful. I would really lean in to the idea of how scared you are, and I wouldn't make anything too big because that's
Mhm.
too scary, right? So something small, one person, or write
Mhm.
down food, or reply to someone's post every day, or just really don't, not to scare her too much. I
Okay.
have so much more to say,
Okay.
but here we are, 45 minutes. You're involved, and I want you to think about the thing I say all the time, which is got to make the solution as big as the problem. But I want you to be more thoughtful about what you're choosing to believe. There's a lot of stuff. You're right about your blind spots. There's a lot of stuff coming in that's just not straight not true.
Okay.
Just a mindfulness. That actually might be the second thing. Maybe the second thing you should do is just like a mindfulness practice every day. Just like 2 minutes of quiet.
I have actually been thinking about that.
Oh my gosh, I love that.
It's scary.
Yeah. But the whole point is that this is what I've been thinking the whole podcast that I want to tell you. Like, you're worthy of your own self-love. And that's actually what this is about for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep in touch with me, okay?
Yes, I'll see you next week.
Oh, yay.
Okay.
You're coming to the retreat?
Yeah.
That's so exciting. All right.
Yeah.
Well, love you.
Thank you.
I believe in you with my heart and soul. I really do.
Thank you.
I'll see you on Sunday.